We're on the go with Joe, and today he's lifting a glass to Oregon's beer industry.
Yeah, Joe's here to tell us about a new exhibit that explores 200 years of Oregon beer. Joe?
Hey, Shauna and Nora, it's the latest offering from the Oregon Historical Society. An exhibit about beer makes sense in a state that has more breweries per capita than any other in the country. And now you can learn how Oregonians blazed a trail to beervana. With Executive Director Carrie Timchuk to talk barley, barrels, bottles, and brews. Did I get it all right?
Got it all right.
200 years of Oregon beer?
200 years of Oregon beer. We tell the story here, the amazing story of the Oregon beer industry, dating back to Lewis and Clark. When Lewis and Clark were here on the Corps of Discovery, camping here in Oregon, John Collins, who was a member of their Corps of Discovery, made beer. And Clark writes in his diary, it was very, V-E-R-R-Y, good.
It must have been very good if he added that extra R.
So that was the first home brew in Oregon, and we've been beer crazy ever since.
This is Lori Erickson. She's the curator of this exhibit. Some of these items go back to the dawn of Oregon.
So this is a large carboy, which was used for fermenting beer. And this was brought over on the Oregon Trail in a wagon. This was one of the original growlers. So they even called those growlers at the time. People would send their kids to the neighborhood brewery or saloon to get a pail of beer.
For the record, you cannot do that today. This is all about Oregon's first breweries. Now, the name we all know is Henry Weinhard, kind of like the godfather of Oregon beer, but he wasn't the only game in town, I guess, in the 19th century.
That's true. The first brewery was Liberty Brewery in 1852. This was the city brewery down here, and so this was opened very early in the 1850s in Portland, and it was later purchased by Henry Weinhard and became part of the Weinhard Brewery.
This area is all about Prohibition, when you weren't allowed to sell beer anymore.
Exactly.
There were, what, 130 breweries in Oregon before Prohibition.
Right.
Then we had, after that,
Three.
Oof.
Three survived. Portland Brewing and Weinhard ended up combining, so it was Blitz Weinhard. And eventually that was the only brewery left. It was about 1979, the home brewing legislation signed by Jimmy Carter was actually put into place. That caused all this interest in beer. A lot of home brewers started brewing in Oregon. So some of the early microbreweries came out of that home brewing movement. Bridgeport opened in early 1984, and then Widmer Brothers just a couple months later.
There are somewhere over 200 breweries now in Oregon, in over 70 cities around the state. And these are just some of the examples of the beers we have here in Oregon from the breweries. And it is precisely 36 bottles of beer on the wall.
Now, if you took one down, passed it around,
you'd have 35 bottles of beer on the wall.
Okay. So. Carrie, thank you very much. This new exhibit here at the Oregon Historical Society through June. And I don't know about you, but I'd go for a beer.
Let's grab a beer.
See you. Now, what's fascinating to me is a lot of those items, they're from the private vault of the Oregon Historical Society. They have this facility where they keep all these historical artifacts. So that carboy, which is a big thing to, to ferment beer in, somebody put that in their wagon. Now, if you know anything about the Oregon Trail, you only pack your necessities. You had some blankets, some food, maybe a butter churn, and of course, something to ferment your beer.
And I think
that laid the template for the state that followed a couple hundred years later.
That is a really cool exhibit, especially if you love beer. Yes. Even if you don't. I mean, it's really interesting.
It's really fascinating stuff. And it explains a lot, quite honestly.
They do such a great job out there.
They're
fantastic.
And he is fascinating.
Carrie Timchuk, you know, a multi-time Jeopardy champion, Carrie Timchuk.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
How long is the exhibit?
It's
going to be there for the next several months into spring, I believe.
Love it.
Wow, nice work, Joe. Thank you.